everybody, Kaysha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Karis Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jay Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigations for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the Karis Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the Karis Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Practical Christianity. We had some technical difficulties with some of the things that we were doing, so we're going to kind of go back at the beginning, and we're going to start Here, I guess we'll have to just put some of the stuff up after. That's no worries. This today we're doing a show, and it is called the Rahab effect, the effect of Rahab's ideology, the church, and the world. And we're going to talk conversely on the other side, because we did Jezebel, who was, for lack of a better term, a prostitute, but she was, I mean, demonic to no end. So we're going to look at a different side of it. And so we're going to go back again, starting up with Hebrews 11, verses 1 to 3. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, for by it the elders gained a good report. Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. So we know that God's power is in his word, and his word is where our faith comes from, and all these things begin in the word. And so we always go back to the word to get what we need to learn. So we're going to talk a little bit about Rahab. So Joshua, the son of Nun, set out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, "Go, view the land, even Jericho." And they went and came into an harlot's house named Rahab, and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, there came in thither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country." And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, "Bring forth the men that are come unto thee, which are entered into thy house, for they be come to search out all the country." So they were watching Rahab's house, and they saw these men entering into Rahab's house, and they knew that Rahab was a prostitute, but they know that these were enemy men. And so they sent people over to Rahab's place and said, "Hey, you better get these men where they need to go, or give them to us, because we need to deal with them," right? And so this is, now they have to kind of just, I guess, they threaten her to say, "Give me the men," right? Because they sent men to the door. So we're going to see what she says. "And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, There came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. And it came to pass at the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I wot not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof." So she deliberately misled the men, told them that they were gone. Go after them. You're going to find them over here. But instead, she had hid them in the roof of the house. So she deliberately lied to the men, and if she got caught lying, she would have got killed instantly. That would have just been make an example killer. But she didn't. And so now she is talking to she's going to talk a little bit more in this chapter. All right. Oops. Went back one too far. "And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate. And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof. And she said unto the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you." So she is watching what is happening to the people around her, and she sees that they are terrified, and she hears what is going on. So she's like, God has given you the land. And she believes this to be true, and she says that people are terrified and she knows what's up. She's paying attention to the actions of the people around her. So she's like, nah, I'm not going to give up these men because of what's going on. She's understanding this. And then she said, for we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came up out of Egypt. And this was 40 years ago. So she's going back 40 years of knowing that this is what happened when he came out of Egypt. What he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. So she's like, you wiping these people out. And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man. So she's seeing the men turn weak in front of them. And she's like, because of you, for the Lord your God, he is God in heaven alone and in earth beneath. Right there, she is confessing to them that God is the God of heaven and the God of the earth. Right there, she is saying that the God that we were worshiping, not today, Satan, your God is the true God. And she's like, I believe that your God is who he says he is. And this is what her confession is. Now she says, now therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that ye will also show kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token. So this is you saw this at the woman of the well, where she went back and called the other people so that they could come to Jesus. Rahab doesn't say just take me. She says take my entire family.
Father's house.
Exactly.
That's even a bigger statement. Not my family, my father's house, which we don't know the extent. Like that level of loyalty. Most people don't even. That's a level of respect. Like she understood respect and loyalty, which is crazy. But what is the reason? I didn't fully catch it. What is the reason that she understood that God was the one? Like what was the understanding? Because she never got caught with the spies.
No, she goes back and lays back when they crossed the Red Sea. They were in the wilderness for 40 years after that. She knew this from 40 years that they were came across the Red Sea, knew that the Lord was with them. And through all that time, and then when they started to come up to these other people, they were wiping them out 6 ways from Sunday, right? Because the Israelites, they were not a large stature people. The people that were in Canaan, they were large people. They were not small people. They were strong, and that's why the first set of spies said, we can't handle these guys. They're giants in the land, and these people, they were big. They were warriors. And then these little guys come out of nowhere that were a bunch of slaves that just came in and wiped these guys out like they were nothing. And they knew that it was God that was helping them, because physically not possible.
Wait, I need you to say it in less words.
Rahab knew from when they crossed the Red Sea, which was 40 years ago. And then she comes up to
She
what's
knew
happened,
what?
that
That God was the one. Okay.
was with them, because she said, we heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea.
Okay.
And then they were in the wilderness for 40 years after that happened, because of their wickedness and refusing to listen to Joshua and Caleb. And they listened to the 10 other spies that went in first. And so they had to go back into the wilderness till all those people died. But then when they came back again, they started to wipe these guys out. Like they
Okay, yeah,
destroyed them.
but I just the part where it's too many. Like I need just the part. Like why did she say what she said? Like about
Because what?
what was the determining factor that made her say that, like that God was the one? Like, what, I missed that part. Like, that's what I couldn't.
Because she watched the way that the men, their hearts melt, and
Or
there was no
melted
more
from what?
courage because of the terror of the Israelites and their God.
Oh, she saw them cower.
Yeah, she saw
Okay.
the because these were very strong warlike people, and
Israelites.
no,
No, the other. Yeah, yeah.
where she was, Jericho, and the people in that land, they were trembling,
Okay.
like, and there were giants that lived in that land, and everybody was trembling because of these little puny bunch of slaves that are coming across. They know it's God, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's so funny.
And so she lays out the reasoning why so she understands what she is doing, and because of her belief, and she professes allegiance to God, this is why she risked her life in order to save the spies.
Oh, because she was already watching she was seeing who the respect was giving to.
She believed she believed
She
in
was
their God
watching.
is why she did what she did.
Well, she saw the power play out. She saw the power play out. She saw who was bending the knee. Like, she saw whose hand was being forced at the end of the day. She was watching circumstances.
Yes, she was watching a band of slaves beat like superior military forces and
Which,
destroying
yeah,
it, and knew
impossible.
that
Yeah,
it was God who did
yeah.
that.
Because there's no other way it could have done. Yeah.
Exactly. And she mentioned the Red Sea because everybody knew that God drowned the Egyptians in the Red Sea. Right? Right. And they're like, not about that life.
She's like, word on the desert is, by the way, they got drowned in the water. That's so funny. That's
Yes, it
so funny. That's so funny. That's so funny. I
yes,
can't
and
believe it.
compared that to Jezebel, who heard about the fire coming down from heaven and was like, kill him. Right?
That's crazy. Yeah, she's a
Exactly.
different breed. She's a different
Yes.
breed.
Rahab was probably more likely not wanting to be in that situation and was forced into that situation because she'd taking a
Yeah.
way out. Because Jezebel, I mean, was trained up for that way. And the fact that she saved her father means she didn't hate him.
Yeah, no, she didn't. She was probably pushed in that situation because no woman who hated her father would say, "Save my father's house." His whole house. Like, that's
Yes,
just
because
mad.
if he was abusing her, she would have just said, let him die with the
Let
rest
him
of them.
die. Yeah, kill him.
Right?
Kill all of them. Yeah.
So, yeah, so they were doing probably other things. And she's an intelligent woman because she lays
True.
out her
Yeah.
reasoning why she does what she did. Right?
Yes.
This is, yes, because she's watching and observing what's happening around her, and she knows the reasons why this has happened. So she lays out what she understands. So this
Yeah.
is,
That's, yeah.
yes. Okay, so we go ahead and he says, and that ye will save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. And the men answered her, our life for yours, if ye utter not this our business. And it shall be, when the Lord hath given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with thee. Then she let them down by a cord through the window, for her house was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall. You see, Rahab, it wasn't just fear for her life that saved her. She professed God. She's like, he's God. This is why I'm doing this. That is what saved her. That was because of that belief is why she took the risk to risk getting killed to save because she believed in God. That is why she is remembered as a hero of faith. Right? And so let's continue. And she said unto them, Get you up to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days, until the pursuers be returned, and afterward ye may go your way. The men said unto her, We will be blameless of this thine oath which thou hast made us swear. Behold, when we come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window which thou didst let us down by, and thou shalt bring thy father and thy mother and thy brethren and all thy father's household home unto thee. So she is watching what is going on. She creates a plan for their escape and tells them, this is where this is. Go over there, stay over there, because she's been watching these people and so forth to see what is going on, and then tells them where to go, where to hide, and how to get out. And so they had to put their trust in a strange woman. But she professed God, and they said, if you do that, then we will honor this. Yes, thank you for Achilles. God blessed us to have us here as well.
Yes.
And so now you're looking at this, and then so they said, and it shall be that whosoever shall go out of the doors of thy house into the street, his blood shall be upon his head, and we shall be guiltless. And whosoever shall be with thee in thy house, his blood shall be on our hand, if any hand be upon him. If thou utter this our business, then we will be quit of thine oath, which thou hast made us to swear. And she said, Unto your word, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed, and she bound the scarlet line in the window. So she could have been treacherous, because women who deal in these kinds of business, they have to learn to be treacherous by nature in order to survive, because you're placed in a situation of treachery. And she was an outcast because her house was on the wall. That means if they got attacked and they started to shoot the flaming arrows and all those kinds of things, people like her, they died, and they didn't care because she was a prostitute. Because the only people that were the walls were there for people to go and defend, right? So they put, you're up on the wall, your house is on the wall, so that if they get attacked, you get killed. They're like, okay, well, we know somebody's attacking. Too bad, she's just a prostitute, right? That's, you wouldn't put anybody that you valued in society on the top of the wall. That's nonsense. Yeah. No worries. We'll get the next time to come and enjoy. So now this is, she goes and she makes the agreement with these guys, which is important for them to get out. And she saved their lives. And they went and came to the mountain and abode there 3 days until the pursuers were returned. And the pursuers sought them throughout all the way, but found them not. And the 2 men returned and descended from the mountain and passed over and came to Joshua the son of Nun and told him all the things that befell them. And they said to Joshua, truly the Lord hath delivered into our hands all the land, for even the inhabitants of the country do faint because of us. So she not only told them why she believed, she also gave them the reports of what was happening in the land, because everybody was terrified of them. Not just Jericho, but every person in the land of Canaan were terrified of them. And so they were able to bring that out to Joshua. And so she did a lot of things for them. All right, and so now we're going to hear what we're saying about destroying the Canaanites. And it says, And Joshua said unto the children of Israel, Come hither and hear the words of the Lord thy God. And Joshua said, Hereby ye shall know that the living God is among you, that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth passes over you before you into Jordan. So again, what God did at the passing of the Red Sea, he is going to split the Jordan for them to know that God is with them, just like they were terrified when he parted the Red Sea. When they go into the land of Canaan, he's going to open up the Jordan like he did the Red Sea, so that those people will have even more. Like, God was running the biggest psyops on these people to just break them mentally by parting the Red Sea. Parting the Jordan like he did the Red Sea when they're coming in, so that they know their destruction is assured. You don't mess with God. You just don't. Yeah. Then, now we're going to go back and talk about who the Canaanites were. We're going to kind of back up so we understand why God is doing what he's doing. So we go back to the sons of Noah went forth of the ark were Shem, Ham, Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them the whole earth was overspread. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered in his tent. So he's naked in his tent, right? And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and he told his two brethren without. So he's disrespecting his father. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it both on their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him, which was mocking him in that situation, which God told you not to do that. This is just serious disrespect to his father. But look what happens. And he said, Cursed be Canaan. A servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. So, why did he curse Canaan? Well, we're going to start looking at some of the descendants, and you'll understand why. Because Canaan is the one who followed the example of Ham to the nth degree and became extremely wicked. And you'll see why this happens, and why the curse fell on Canaan, not Ham. And these are the sons of Ham: Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Now, Cush, that's like what you think Ethiopia. But Ham is the father of the black race. Mizraim, when you see that in the Old Testament, that's the Hebrew word for Egypt. So descendant of Ham. Phut and Canaan, also descendant of Ham. These are all darker skinned people. That's where the darker races came from, was descendants of Ham. And the sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, and Sabta, and Rama, and Sabtika. And the sons of Rama, Sheba, and Dedan. Right? So the queen of Sheba, direct descendant of Cush. And Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one on the earth. And Nimrod was a real wicked dude. But what Canaan did was on a next level that started to warp things. And you'll begin to see what the effects of what Canaan did. And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth. And Sidon is where Tyre and Sidon, that's where this comes from, that were wicked places. And the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite. These are the same people that God said were going to be destroyed in Canaan. When you go back to Joshua, you'll recognize those names. These are the ones that God said, you're going to wipe them out. And the Arvite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanite was from Sidon, and thou, as thou goest to Gerar, and unto Gaza, and thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah and Zeboim, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham after their families, and after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. So Sodom and Gomorrah were in Canaan. These were the descendants of Canaan. And because of the disrespect and the filthiness that Ham did, that Canaan took to the next level, this is why God cursed Canaan. Sodom and Gomorrah came from Canaan, that God had to burn them up in the time of Abraham because of their wickedness. And instead of and then those other two cities that got burnt in the plain, which were mentioned there, they still continue in wickedness. And what were these people doing? Because of the wickedness that Canaan did, that he took from the example of Ham to the next level, that the end result was them chopping up babies and doing all kinds of filth to children and all of these abominations that went on. This is why God was like, don't do it. Because if you go down it and you keep going down that road, this is the end result. And this is why you understand why God starts putting these harsh penalties for doing things, because you end up going down this road that you should never go to. And then what ended up happening? Moloch and Baal worship were rampant in the land of Canaan, and God was like, wipe them all out, because everybody was engaged in it. So this is why the curse went on to Canaan, because you can see the effects of what Canaan did, which is why you can understand why the curse fell on Canaan, because of his wickedness, because they were way more wicked than other people, because you see what Sodom and Gomorrah did. And they continued the practice rather than turning away from their wickedness after they were destroyed. So by the time they got there, God was like, nope, you're getting wiped out. So now we're going to go back to Miriam, because Rahab was a Canaanite. She was a darker skinned woman as well, because she's of the lineage of Ham. Different race altogether. Now we're going to go back to Moses, and we're going to make a connection here. So Numbers 12 verses 1 to 3. And Miriam spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And if you look into the go into the translation of the word, that word for Ethiopia would be Cush. So she was a dark-skinned woman. Even though she was a Midianite, she was very dark, which is why she was called a Cushite, because they had the darkest skin. Were the the Ethiopians are the Cushites, because the descendants of Ham generally went to Africa, and then you would have some in Canaan, like you had the Canaanites, which were the descendants of Ham. All right, and so they're going up to Moses because he married an Ethiopian woman, so a very dark-skinned woman. So this is an interracial marriage here, and they're saying, hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. So they're going after Moses and his leadership because of him marrying an Ethiopian woman. They're basically saying that you are incompetent to lead and unfit to lead because you married this black woman. This is what they're saying to Moses. And so Moses said, God, and then God says, I'm going to step in because what they're doing is nonsense. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses and to Aaron and to Miriam, come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And so Aaron, first of all, should have never went along with what Miriam said. Aaron was doing nonsense. We know Aaron had a streak for weakness because when they wanted to have the golden calf, what did he do? He bent in there when Moses was up in the mount talking to God. He yielded to them. So he had a streak of weakness in him. And he should have rebuked his sister, but no, he went along with that. And the Lord came down because what she's doing here, this is like the Jezebel spirit, because she's going to attack Moses and his leadership right now by going after and attacking him for saying that he's unfit to lead because he married the Ethiopian. Way off base. Oh yes. So then the Lord came down in the pillar crowd and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and I will speak unto him in a dream. So God comes and he just checks this right away. He says, my servant Moses is so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him I will speak, mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches, and in the similitude of the Lord he shall behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. So God was like, listen, man, I'm the one who chooses Moses. He's my servant. And what is wrong with you? He goes, why would you not be afraid to speak against my servant? Because they were attacking his wife, but he's like, you're speaking against him because they were using his wife to undermine this, because they were using the racism and the prejudice to excite this. And this is this respecter of persons. This is a sin of respecting of persons. And they were trying to excite that so that they could usurp his position. And God was angry. And the cloud departed off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. The reason why they did this, because Aaron was the high priest, and he had to go and look at the cases of leprosy, and so forth. And then Aaron said to Moses, alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. So what was Aaron acknowledging? That his racist behavior was sin, right? Because God just put Miriam, gave her leprosy in front of her and said that she was unclean, and normally that would cut you off from Israel. And why did they do that? They did that to destroy the work that Moses was doing, to go after his position. That was some serious, insidious nonsense. And so then Aaron comes back and says, okay, I have to repent, because what we did was foolish. says, let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, heal her now, O God, I beseech thee. And Moses intervening, but God says, hold on. And the Lord said unto Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. And Miriam was shut out of the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not until Miriam was brought in again. And afterward the people removed from Hazeroth and pitched in the wilderness of Paran. So God is teaching a lesson here, because leprosy is a sign of sin. Because in the time of the Bible, when you got leprosy, you were finished. It was only the mercy of God that was going to save you. So that's a death sentence. And this is why he's pleading for her not to die. But God's teaching him, he says, well, if his father spit in her face, because there's some foolishness, she'd have to go into the camp for 7 days and let her be ashamed. So he's like, let her go into the camp for 7 days, and after that it'll demonstrate that she's cleansed and she can come back in. And keep this in mind for what we are going to read later on. But God is teaching them a very important lesson here beforehand, because Rahab is of the same race. She's a descendant of Ham, darker skin, different race. And so when they're coming to her, why would they not come and treat her in the same kind of way? God is making sure he's cutting this off at the pass, that this is not about your color of your skin, but your service to God. Because Moses couldn't do what he was doing unless his wife was going along with him. Because if his wife was a Jezebel, his life would be hell. The only thing they didn't attack her on her infidelity or unfaithfulness, they attacked her on the color of her skin. Because if they had something else to attack her on about being rebellious, they would have brought that up.
And then God gave them leprosy for that. That's funny.
Yes.
Yeah. That's like, and Zephora didn't get anything. Like, that shows God does not appreciate. And leprosy is the worst thing you could have got. You had to go out of the city after you were like, you're finished after that. Like, but she had 7 days.
Zephora learned her lesson when she talked to her husband about not circumcising her son, and then she watched God was going to kill him.
Yeah, and then she had to go in and circumcise him quickly with like a rock.
Yes, and so she was like, "No, God, I learned my lesson."
Yep.
And she was faithful to her husband and God.
Yeah, that's
right?
Not a joke. Yeah.
And so they're picking at something for this, and God cut that down at the pass. So now we're going back to, now they're meeting the captain of the Lord's host. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked. And behold, there stood a man against him with his sword drawn from his hand. And Joshua went in unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us or for our adversaries? And he said, Nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord I am now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place wherein thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. And you know that if you remember when Moses was talking to God in the burning bush, He had to take his shoes off of his feet because where he stood was holy ground. And when Jesus was talking to to the Pharisees, when he said, "Before Abraham was, I am," Jesus was telling them that it was me who was talking to Moses in the burning bush. Because when Moses says, "Who shall we say sent me?" he said, "I am that I am. Tell him that the I am sent you, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the self-existent one." And so when the shoes had to come off the feet for Moses at the burning bush, and when Joshua is worshiping the captain of the Lord's host, and then he said, "Take your shoes off your feet, for the ground where you're standing is holy," who is standing in front of Joshua? That's who the captain of the Lord's host is, right? You go to Revelation 19. Who's leading the armies of heaven? It's Jesus. Obviously, he hasn't taken the name yet, but he's on the ground right there with them, because no angel takes worship. That's blasphemy, right? So the only person that was there, since nobody's seen the Father, the only person to be that is Jesus before he before he takes that name, right? So this is God coming down in the form of a man. And so obviously not like, you know what I mean, not like Jesus incarnate, but appearing to be as a man so he wouldn't kill us all or kill them all. So at the end of the day, we're going now, and this is who's leading what's going on. And so you go into the command to save Rahab. Now it says, "And it came to pass this at the seventh time, when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for the Lord hath given you the city. And the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein, to the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that were sent. And ye in any wise keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves accursed when ye take of the accursed thing, and make the camp of Israel a curse, and trouble it." So he made a distinction that everything in that city, save Rahab and those in her house, were to be accursed. And they used the scarlet ribbon. Think about this. When they had the Passover for the destruction, they put blood on the doorposts. The color of blood is scarlet. She put a scarlet thing in the in the window to designate that they were the ones to be saved. This is, you can see the parallels, because it's when it coming down for the saving and out of the destruction, it's only the blood of Christ that saves us, right? And scarlet is the color of blood. The red, right? And so now we are escaping the destruction. And so they come in and they said, "And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and ass with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the two men that had spied out the country, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman and all that she has, as ye swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brother and all that she had, and they brought out all her kindred and left them without the camp of Israel." So they went in and saved them. And you got to think about it. Remember, they went around the city 7 times, just as on 7 days, just as Miriam was outside of the camp 7 days before they brought her back in. And because, with the cleansing of the sin and all that type of thing, symbolically, you can see how that parallel was made. But it was also with what happened to Miriam, was to make sure that they didn't think of doing something wrong to her because of who she was, because it was her profession of faith. God knew that Rahab was going to do what she did. God wanted Rahab to be saved and didn't want anybody to do foolishness, because man's natural tendency is to start making problems with other people. And if everybody's of a certain race and somebody is not, that's just another excuse. Like, even if they're of the same race, somebody has a different hair color. This is human nature. We like to make some kind of nonsensical standard to judge who's better than the others. That means nothing to God. And God was like, not a bit of it, because of what he had Rahab to do, because she demonstrated great faith for what she did. She risked her life to come in and help them because she believed in God. And so that demonstrates the faith, and that is great faith, what she did. And God rewarded that faith. Now, and they burnt the city with fire, and all that were therein. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and iron they put in the treasury of the house of the Lord. And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had, and she dwelleth in Israel even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. And Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before the Lord that rises up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall set up the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it in. This is how offended God was with these people for their wickedness. These people were burning their children alive. They were doing filth to the children. They were doing all manner of abominations, and the land was filled with violence. And everybody was doing it. When you keep traumatizing children from the beginning and generationally doing this over time, there comes a point where the children that survive are so broken and bent for evil, there is no coming back. But there was one family who was faithful. One family, and she was probably, I would go ahead to say with her reaction, she was probably prostituted to make her like them. Because we see that in action today, where they target women for trafficking.
And that's interesting as well, because nothing is said about the father of Mary Magdalene or Jezebel, really. Well, the Jezebel, it's clear what's going on with Jezebel because the high priest is nonsense. But the distinction between, the father being mentioned with Rahab, the way that she done it, and not Mary Magdalene, shows the great difference in the functionality, and the mindset of both of them, why they did different things. And also, she ended up getting a family. Mary Magdalene is not listed as having a family. It like, there seems to be a substantial difference of the outcome between the two, and I think those details are noted for a specific reason, like you said, like probably she was trafficked and prostituted or something for the purpose
The-
um, of what you're saying, trying to make her actually evil like them.
her
Um,
her parents aren't mentioned, but her brother and her sister are. That's
Mary
Mary.
Magdalene,
Yeah, Lazarus
her
and
parents.
Martha.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait. Oh, yeah, yeah. But her parents aren't. But Rahab's respect is noted for her father is noted. We don't see that with Mary Magdalene.
No, and what she did was very important because she had respect for her family and went
Yeah,
to her father's house because she's like, save my father and his household.
yeah. Which means they were that almost speaks to circumstance more, as if like she understood they're all suffering together, and the suffering of the father is what's putting her in that position. Which is why she would have said, "Save my father's household," because she understood that saving him was saving all of them.
Yes.
Which is so funny that people think, people who come out of trafficking are sick, who respect their fathers, but the ones who come out of trafficking that have good families understand that the destruction of their family is what put them in the position to be trafficked and prostituted. She outlined that's so deep. That's so deep right there. Like she was smart. Rahab is smart
Yes,
because
she
even she was
was.
going through that, and that also shows the level of the who her father actually was. Because if a woman was being abused by her father, she wouldn't come to that conclusion.
No, she
Save my
wouldn't.
father's house. She would say, "Save me and only me." Like, and she
Yes,
would go. She'd run for the hills.
they did
She,
it against his will.
yeah, and he was probably being destroyed for it to happen, which is why she said, "Save my father's house." Yeah, and you know what? No one talks about Rahab's situation. Now I know why, because if you really looked into it, more people would understand that the fathers are being destroyed so that they can prostitute the daughters who are smart like Rahab, and the fathers, and destroy the smart fathers and their smart daughters, turn the daughters against the fathers and destroy the entire family, so they have to do less work. But the way they do it is by prostituting the daughters, because when you do that, usually if you can convince the daughters that the father is the bad guy when you in fact are trafficking or raping them or prostituting them, then the daughter will turn on the family. Because if she would have said, "Save me," then her family would have just died. She would have died too, but she was smart enough to know that their destiny, their fate was linked, because the attack wasn't just against her. She understood there was no forgiveness for the attack that was going against her father. It would never end for her if the father's family,
Yeah,
the father's house lost.
she wouldn't do that.
No,
That
but she would understand. Like, they're not gonna stop coming after her. They'd not stop putting her in that position. They would have just continued if she saved herself and left her father's house. So, and then after that, that level of loyalty and respect, still, even in such a harsh circumstance, God blessed her with a family. And then Jesus came from that same very line. So this is what we're watching.
yes, yes, Rahab. Like
That's
I mean,
crazy.
yes,
That's
and
crazy. That's our
yes,
exact situation. That's crazy.
yeah. She was more than likely trafficked based on the way that she responded, and how she was thinking of her father and her father's house. Oh yes, and this is one of the reasons why they tell you that, because they were the guy who had more weapons and more force would take people and they would steal their daughters. And this is what God warned Israel about having kings, because this is what they did regularly. They would just come in and take your children, and too bad for you. And they would do what they wanted with them, and that was just the way it went, right? And so we're gonna go ahead. So now we go back and we look at the effect of faith. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days. By faith, Rahab, the harlot Rahab, perished not with them when she received the